What if the reason you don't feel like you're growing is because you're measuring it the wrong way? I think one of the biggest misconceptions about healing is that it should feel good all the time. But in my experience, healing can often be uncomfortable, monotonous, and repetitive before it is integrated. Hi, I'm Kennedy. Welcome to Deeply Spiritual, Totally Human, where inner work meets real life. Over the past 5 weeks, I've been sharing the 5 spiritual tools that changed the way I experience life. But as I was making those videos, I realized something. The tools were not the transformation. They were the practice that helped me navigate it. Looking back, I can see that growth wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about learning how to notice myself, question myself, understand my season, observe myself, and finally share myself. When I first started my healing journey, I struggled because I was comparing my real life lived experience to everybody else's highlight healing reels. And what I discovered over time was that the truth was something much more complicated. The word healing and the meaning that we give to it has a huge impact on our journey. For example, for me, healing implied that I was fixing something that was broken. What I've discovered now after being on this journey for so many years is that healing is not about fixing something that is broken. Healing is about remembering your authentic self and choosing to learn a different way of being when you realize that the current way of being is no longer serving you. Healing is an invitation to something new, and your power lives in accepting the invitation, even if you don't know what the path looks like. One of the biggest things that I learned is that there is a difference between discomfort and misalignment. So as you're navigating your journey, oftentimes you will find yourself back in a familiar situation, in a pattern that you've identified, and the discomfort may not be there because it's familiar. However, if you choose to put yourself in a new environment or you choose a different path rather than the one that you would typically choose, there's going to be some discomfort there. But that discomfort isn't the same thing as misalignment. So having those 5 practices, notice myself, question myself, understand my season, observe myself, and share myself with other people, having that as a foundation allowed me to ensure that I could experience the discomfort without immediately believing that it was somehow an indication that I was misaligned with the life that I desired for myself. The other thing that I wish I had known years ago is that everything does not need to happen at once. In fact, everything cannot happen at once. Healing is a very layered experience. And I wish someone had told me that when I first started my journey because, comparing myself to the highlight reels, I thought that if I just did this one thing, if I just did this practice, if I just practiced the affirmations, right? And I just did all the manifestation rituals, then my entire life was going to change. And that just simply isn't realistic because the reality is beyond insight and awareness, your life has changed through lived action. Perfect example of this is realizing a pattern in your dating life and realizing that that pattern is an indication of an insecure attachment style. Often talked about on social media, anxious avoidant, etc. You can have the insight that you have an insecure attachment, and you can even have insight into where you learned it and how it doesn't serve you. But the reality is your nervous system is accustomed to that. So it's unlikely that you're going to stop immediately attracting those people. And to be real, securely attached people attract insecurely attached people. So it's not even just about who you attract. It's about who you keep, for example. It's about who you feel safe with. And right at the beginning of that journey, securely attached people are not going to immediately feel safe to you because you've suddenly discovered that you have an insecure attachment style. It is going to be through lived experience and possibly multiple relationships before you're able to move into and embody what it means to live a learned secure attachment style, to get to a place where when you recognize that you are in relationship with someone who has an insecure attachment style, it's a turnoff for you now. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel familiar. That is a process. That's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. Same thing goes with spiritual practices. I did not start all 5 spiritual practices at one time. I layered them. I had always been a person that journaled. So journaling was the first thing that I did naturally Beyond that, meditation, beyond that, astrology, right? So I was building these pillars of this foundation over time, over years. It did not happen overnight. So definitely wanted to share that with you today. What I want you to take away from this video is that if your healing journey has looked like a spiral where you find yourself revisiting the same experiences or the same challenges over and over, understand that that does not mean that the work is not working. It does not mean that you are not growing. Once you have integrated whatever it is that you need to integrate in that journey, you will make a different choice. And that choice that you make on that spiral is a portal to the next level of your healing journey. So just continue to take the spirals. That is the purpose. Healing is not necessarily a destination. It is the way in which you live your life. It is the way in which you become a new being and you experience life differently. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and drop down in the comments which part of this video resonated with you the most.